Well, you're all very welcome. I'm delighted to join you today live from the lounge. You'll see I'm still at home. We're still doing work on the new studio, so I'm still at home, but I'm very comfortable at home. Put the kettle on when I want, have a cup of tea when I want, and I'm delighted to bring my next guest because this time we're going all the way to New York. Let me just read a little piece here. It is said of my guest that he hunts stories and scoops at glamorous parties to the slums of India. He's exposed sex lives of A-listers to the darkest secrets of serial killers. And the royals. So let's go to New York and meet my guest. Andy, you're very welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Maurice. Great to speak with you. How are you doing?
Is that a good description? Would that sort of sum you up, would you think?
I hope so. I mean, I've been very lucky enough to travel, around the world hunting stories, and there's nothing I like more than meeting people and getting involved, on the ground and finding the root of stories, because there's only so much you can do on the telephone, searching the internet. The real information always comes from the people that you actually speak to.
Now, would you be known as one of these press guys that exposes all and people say he's got no morals at all? Do you ever mind what you're exposing in your stories? Do you ever think, this is a good story, it'll make me a few bob, doesn't matter what it says or ruins anyone's life? Or did you have that little bit of moral and think, I don't want to really do that because maybe it'll, mess things up for him or her?
Maurice, if I could open my vault of stories that have not been able to run, or that weren't. I mean, I hear a lot of rumors. I hear a lot of stories that could or couldn't be true, and you have to make a decision, as to whether to pursue something or not to pursue something. And of course, everyone has a moral compass, and I personally feel that there are certain things that have to be handled sensitively, or sometimes not at all. It really depends on the subject. You have to evaluate everything as soon as you get it, and you have to you have to take on a sense of what will this story have as an impact. There are people whose today, especially with the media climate and the way that things are, if somebody makes one tweet, if somebody gets caught doing one outburst on camera, it can ruin their entire lives. And ruining people's lives is not in the interests.
Would that stop you? Would that stop you putting a story out, thinking that maybe once you've written it, thinking maybe this story will ruin his or her life? Or maybe
of course, and that's why there are certain safeguards and things that are put into place that make sure that we don't overstep the mark. There was a story I did where we found I'm not going to go into specifics, but the relative of a serial killer. Okay, Now we attempted to speak to this person. They didn't want to speak with us, and that's fine. We did the story that we'd found them, but there was no, we changed all the identifying information so that nobody else could go there, because if somebody was, born and their father was a bad person, that's not their fault, and they have a duty to live a dignified and quiet life. And as a member of the press, you have to respect that, and you should respect that. And throughout my career, I always have done.
Right, okay, let's go on. I mean, one of the reasons I'm delighted you've joined me today, it's Andy Tillett talking to us from his home, like me, in New York. I'm not in New York, of course, I'm in Marbella, and you can see the heat here under these lights. It's extraordinary at the moment. There you are. Now, and if I put a fan on, they'll all hear the buzzing. So, look, let's talk to you about your book that's making headlines. It's called The Royals at War. The untold, your timing was impeccable. The untold story of Meghan and Harry. Shocking, split from the House of Windsor, letting the Queen down. This man, if I remember right, Harry was the one they all loved. He was a hero. He was a soldier. He could do no wrong, not even being caught in Las Vegas doing the naughty with some naked woman. That was fine with everyone. But then along came Meghan, and along came Andy. Andy, I think you investigated this story very deeply. That's why I want you on the show. Congratulations on the book. You co-wrote it with your partner, of course, the book, and it's doing phenomenally well. We know that, and of course, the reason it's doing phenomenally well, I think, in America, they're royal mad. Are they still royal mad?
Absolutely. In 2016 and 2017,
Sorry, can I just disturb you? I want the juicy bits, the bits that are not in the book. Come on.
In 2016 and 2017, Meghan Markle was the most Googled woman on the planet. Meghan and Harry are possibly the most famous celebrities on the planet now. Now, I say celebrities instead of royals because they've made some incredible choices which seem largely unprecedented over the last 50 years to completely split from the House of Windsor and to leave the royal family effectively. Now, it's shocking, and we were looking into this from the very start of their relationship. As soon as it was rumored that Meghan had started dating an actress from a TV show, this was something that was shocking to any royal followers. Harry is a member of the upper class and the ruling family of the United Kingdom, has sort of an unspoken duty to intermingle and mix with a certain sort of person. And certainly, for most of the upper class people of the UK and the people in his social circles, they would think that an American actress who is also biracial was a very large step away from what they would expect from him, but also a very bold move. And from that moment, I at the time was in Los Angeles, which is where Meghan is from. There was an insatiable appetite to find out as much about Meghan as possible. And, the press descended upon her wayward half-brother. They found her sister in Florida, who's always...
Sorry, can I ask you that? I don't mean to interrupt like this, but I will.
All right.
Did you, were you at the core? Were you the one hunting as well? Did you, it said, this is the story I'm going to do, and you went after her? And you probably, come on, Harry's, unmarried, young bachelor, royal family, good-looking girl, Meghan, no harm there. The harm really started after she and him got closer.
I don't know what it was, but there was something about this relationship that it was a perfect Hollywood story, Hollywood story. Now, the story of Prince William and Duchess Catherine is the perfect, commoner princess turned into a member of the royal family story. But this was a Hollywood story because Harry was, from the richest, most powerful, not most powerful, but he was from, the English ruling family. And, in America, there are many people who are Anglophiles and they see the gravitas that comes with that. And, Meghan, in some ways, people have inferred that Meghan kind of engineered their meeting. She was very close with the person at the Private Members Club where they met. And she helped to sort of find her way to get into the room with Harry. And once she was there, as Harry said in his interviews, he was knocked out from the first moment he met her. He said in the interview that they gave jointly to the BBC that as soon as he walked in the room, he was like, wow, I better raise my game. As soon as he saw Meghan, he was hooked. And, who would have known where that would lead? I mean, if you said in 2019 even, do you feel that Harry will leave the royal family entirely? Most people would tell you, not a chance.
There was no chance. I mean, he was, as I said, he was a soldier, a serving soldier. He did everything right for the royals. He played around a bit, but he was a brave soldier. He was always there on duty. He went out to the most dangerous places in the world. Not for a minute would you think that he would leave the firm, as they call it, and join up with some American actress. But, if you look back in history, wasn't there someone else that joined up with a young American as well? I think.
Yes, indeed. King George, who...
A little bit of bloodline there, you see, maybe.
Well, I mean, history always repeats, and there are many comparisons made between Meghan Markle and Wallis Simpson, but the stories are, startling in their parallel. That there's so many ways in which it seems, it's the same thing, but in other ways it's kind of different. It's more modernized, and it's very interesting to see how the rest of the royal family reacted, because Harry became very protective of Meghan from straight away. Only a few months after they had started dating, he issued an unprecedented statement through his press office to say, leave Meghan alone. The press need to stop it. And Harry's war on the press, and Meghan and Harry as a couple's war on the press, has only grown over time. As they've repeatedly mentioned the tabloid press as being the one thing that they cannot stand. Obviously, Harry has his own reasons for that with the death of Princess Diana, and it's interesting to see how he chose to blame the press. But as soon as Meghan started to become integrated into the royal family, that's when the rift with William, reared. That's when it first sort of started.
Why? I want to know, why did this happen? Why was this rift between the two brothers who seemed to be very close and going everywhere together? All of a sudden, and Catherine was there. She didn't seem to cause any problem between Harry and William. But along came Meghan, and then something happened. Now, I need the juicy stuff. I need to know what happened there. Never mind, we'll talk about the book and millions will buy the book, but I want to know the juicy stuff. What happened behind closed doors?
Well, Maurice, as Rules of War by myself and my co-writer Dylan Howard reveals, there's a point whereby Harry took Meghan back, and William took him to one side and he said, Harry, I just want to know that you're making the right decision here. Are you sure this is the right person for you? Harry took that the wrong way, William was looking out for his brother by all accounts, or that's what people tell us. But Harry immediately decided that, William wasn't giving Meghan her due. And this is something that, behind closed doors, he's repeatedly told, or repeatedly sort of said that, as soon as he turned up with Meghan, the royal family were kind of against it. Now, I don't know how true that is, because outwardly and publicly, Meghan was very much embraced by the royal family. Prince Charles, in particular, who, let's not forget, bankrolls the couple right now, and has done for a long time.
And walked her down the aisle.
And walked her down the aisle after her father, Thomas, was hospitalised. And that's a whole other side to things, the way that Meghan treats her father, who, she has cut out of her life completely and has repeatedly and publicly begged to be let back in.
You know about this. You know about this because when I rang you first, I'd watched a program on Channel 4, Channel 5, I can't remember which one, which was a sort of an expose of what the father had been through, what he had gone through at the time, and that she had made a speech prior, I don't know when it was, but she was certainly, I think, with Harry at the time, but maybe not married, saying that all her principles in life and everything that she's ever learned in her life, she'd learned from her father. She could never thank him enough. And there was all these home videos. Her father more or less brought her up on his own, and yet this girl turned on him. Why?
Well, I just want to clarify something there, Maurice. He and his and her mother, Doria, co-parented, so she was between the two of them. But yes, like her father paid for her to go to the very expensive private school in Los Angeles, where she got her first breaks and realized her acting talents. He took her to the set of General Hospital Married with Children, where he worked as a lighting director frequently, and he by all accounts, including his own and from Meghan's half-brother, Thomas Jr., did his very best to pave her way in life. And I'm pretty sure he paid for her to go to the prestigious Northwestern University that she did. And while her relationship was always reported to be good with her father, there's something that changed before the wedding. And, he was invited, he then was uninvited, he then said he had a heart attack and he couldn't attend. And there's from that point onwards.
People say that was a fake. People say, although on the TV show, it certainly came across that he was actually very ill in hospital.
Well, in subsequent correspondence that we've seen, Harry had texted Thomas to say, look, stop collaborating with the press. Don't, say anything. Don't, do these things. Do what I tell you to do. And I think that, as a 60-plus-year-old man, getting some guy he's never actually met in person, texting him saying, do this, do that, I think that might have upset him slightly. And from then on, that's when sort of like a frosty sort of edge seemed to appear between Meghan and Harry and her father. And it was shortly after that there was the fallout that, a week before the wedding, he announced he wasn't going to be able to attend. Prince Charles valiantly stepped in. But, Thomas has been sort of pushed out of the whole of Meghan's life ever since she became a part of the royal family. And it'll be very interesting to see if she'll let him back in now she's left the royal family after, less than 2 years of being a member of it. And I would personally say no. And I don't know, I don't know what people will conclude from that as to what that, portrays of her character.
What I find confusing is that normally someone who wants to be an actress or has the ambitions to become famous, the hands go hand in hand. You can't say, I don't want to be famous, but I want to be an actress. It goes hand. And she got to the top of her tree, I think, with that TV series that she did. One would imagine the step into the royal family is a step beyond that she would embrace and love the life of being a royal and be treated by a royal and having police outriders wherever you go and bodyguards everywhere in the press crazy about you. Surely that's part of her ambition in life, not necessarily to be a royal, but to be famous like that and be treated like this. And yet it seems that she instigated Harry to leave it.
Well, Harry's actually said the opposite, that it's always been his choice to leave.
I don't want to argue with Harry. Sorry if you're listening, Harry.
But as I said, this is where another side of the book, which we cover, and the complex relationship of Meghan and Harry to the royal family comes in. Because, who wouldn't want to have a royal title, especially coming from a foreign country? And who wouldn't want the perceived grandeur that comes with being a royal family member? But I feel that once Meghan and Harry came back to the UK and she started becoming a working royal and realised exactly how many rules there were and exactly how tough it was and how restrictive it was, I think that was very hard for her to adapt to. And I feel that, the very boring side of everyday life as being a royal quite quickly became apparent, which made it very hard for her to work out what's done. And I also, and this is something that we cover in the book, is that it wasn't easy for Meghan. Now, the royal family publicly went out of their way to make her feel welcome publicly. The Queen, gave her an unprecedented ride on her train with her as they went to an event not long after, before they were even married, which is unprecedented. Kate didn't get that sort of treatment. But behind closed doors and within the circles of the upper class, there were people who were constantly trying to trip Meghan up, constantly trying to sort of, point out things that she had done. Now, I'm not saying that she helped herself. If you look at, her trip to Wimbledon with Duchess Catherine and the way that they both appeared or were reported to have carried themselves, you can see a very different approach. And you can see that's a little bit of Meghan, the superstar seeming side of her character coming out. But with the royal family, I don't think that it was made easy for her or as easy as people make it out. And let's not forget, she's not from England. She's not steeped in English culture or, UK culture. And she's not from, the same background, not used to the same airs and graces as Harry. And then all of a sudden she was plunged straight into it. I think as well, Harry's got to take some sort of blame for that. You know what I mean? You don't become a royal overnight and integrate and know what to do and how to curtsy and what, hat to wear and what, whether you're allowed to wear tights or any of these things. It's a very complex world that she was thrown into.
Restricted life for a young girl. Her dad, have you ever met Meghan? Have you ever, spoke to her, got close to her?
Many of my sources have been in contact with Meghan, but I have not personally ever met her myself. When she was doing press in London for Suits, I was actually out of the country, so I didn't meet her at that time. But a number of the sources that contributed to this book have, very good knowledge of her character and what she was like. And, through time, we've sort of seen a lot of her growing up and what she was like, and had a taste of that incredible ambition that Meghan's always had to get to the top. And you've got to hand it to her. She's done very, very well,
Sure. Her dad, have you met her dad?
I've not personally met her father, but again, I know many people who've been in very close proximity to her, who, I can't obviously give up my sources, but yes, Meghan's dad, by all accounts, is a very humble character who got plunged into something he never had any idea was going to happen. And, he's been overwhelmed, and I think that he finds it hard to navigate and hard to know what to do, and he's tried to do the right thing, and every time he tries to do what he perceives to be the right thing, it seems a little blunderous.
Now, he told a story. He told a story about walking out of a shop in where he lives, Mexico, walking out of a shop with some groceries. And there was someone standing outside and said, "Well, how's it going? You've got a new grandchild. Congratulations." He said, "Well, thank you very much. I'm happy. I'm delighted, and everything's fine. Thank you." Got into his car and drove away. But he says then Harry called him, because that made it to the press. And I told you not to speak to the press. And he then said this was extremely rude of Harry, and he slammed the phone down.
Well, what it shows that, Harry maybe has a certain way of, dealing with people privately that probably might not be the same as his public persona. I mean, it does appear to be that he's gone from being the fun-loving prince, the fun-loving, guy who could go down to the pub and have a good laugh with his pals, right, to, somebody who has a zero-tolerance policy for people. And that sounds to me like a clear case of trying to order somebody around who doesn't really know. And what's brought that on in him? I mean, many people would point to Meghan. If it was 2016, would Harry have made the same choices that he made at the beginning of 2020, do we think?
I wouldn't know. Look, the book is called Royals at War, The Untold Story of Harry and Meghan, and I'm delighted to have the co-author Andy Tillett on the show. Andy, what are you planning next? Come on, I want some juice. What are you planning next? What have you got on someone? Jeez, I hope it's not me. What have you got? What's happening?
The next chapter will be the most interesting thing imaginable. Hollywood Harry, the Los Angeles Prince. What's he going to do? I mean,
the good, bad, and ugly. That'll be him. He'll get into those films. And of course, I'd love to get you back on the show again to speak about Charles Manson. I remember well reading all the book about Sharon Tate. I know you wrote the last tapes of Charles Manson and speak to you about that. But it's a whole different subject. So I'd rather sort of stay on the subject we're on right now.
Sure.
And go into that. So as I say, find the book online, The Royals at War, get the inside story. I need one little scoop. I need a scoop. You'd have to give me a scoop. I want a scoop. You must have something to give me.
Well, I don't know what. Yeah, sure.
Go.
Many of the senior royal family members, this is a story from the book, were very, very concerned about how quickly Meghan got pregnant. That was the way that this went down. Harry met Meghan. Harry brought Meghan home. Harry took Meghan to Botswana. Harry appeared everywhere with her, completely smitten in love. 2 years later, he's married. 3 months after that, she's pregnant. That rung the alarm bells for most of the people, who were in the top echelon of the royal circle, and that was when the knives started to come out. And I think that was really the beginning of
Harry,
Meghan, and the royal family.
These old fellas that are in the royal family, I mean, he was at it probably, they're a young couple and not bad looking. I mean, what's wrong with being pregnant 3 months after you're engaged?
Absolutely nothing, but we're talking about a very stuffy institution. And,
stuffy. No, I suppose we are. Well, look, thanks for joining us. Do you ever get down to Spain? Do you ever come this way?
I have been to Jerez and I have been to Malaga, but not for probably 10, 15 years.
Well, we're in the Malaga Provence at the moment. We're not in lockdown anymore, but we're aware in Spain there's a few towns now gone back into lockdown. People are worried still. Of course, we're very worried, but nothing like what's happening in America. How's New York at the moment? Because I believe it was done quite well, New York, but Florida seems to have spiked.
Well, things have changed around. To begin with, New York was the hardest hit place in America, and lockdown became very, very serious very quickly. Thankfully, the new cases of hospitalizations are now under 200 a day, and it seems that New York has moved into a phase of being able to control the virus to a certain extent, whereas other places which didn't lock down at the same time or locked down later are now seeing a much wider spread of the COVID. And first of all, Florida banned people from New York coming down to stay there. Now New York has banned people from Florida or anywhere else coming down to stay there. So it's complicated, and the response to the coronavirus across the US has varied depending on states and depending on the state governor's politics. I know that the president repeats numerous times that he feels that the rise in cases is mainly down to more people being tested. I'm not sure whether that's the true picture on the ground. I know the hospital beds in Texas, in Florida, in Arizona are becoming very scarce, and it's a very, very real problem which isn't going away with the summer, and looks like it will continue at least until the end of the year, I feel.
I think this thing about the hot weather, of course, when it comes, everything will be fine. But of course, we'll go into, straight after the summer, we go into the flu season. And that's when they're saying, if it's going to spike, it will spike then. Look, let's be on a happy note. Go out, everybody who's listening, go out and buy this book, The Royals at War, The Untold Story. Make Andy very wealthy, and when he's making a speech in some award, he'll say, I want to thank Maurice Boland down in Marbella for giving me this exposure to help me serve my book to millions. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.